Dr. Brown was a busy man. He was a doctor. He helped people. He worked long hours at the hospital. He wanted to heal everyone. Dr. Brown was famous. People knew he was a very good doctor. They came from all over to see him. He was always needed somewhere. Dr. Brown was tired sometimes, but he never gave up. He knew his work was important. He knew people needed him. He was happy to help them. One day, Dr. Brown got a call. It was an important call. There was a big conference. Doctors from around the world would be there. They wanted Dr. Brown to speak. The conference was far away. It was in another country. Dr. Brown needed to fly there. He booked a flight. He was excited to share his work. He knew he could learn a lot too. Dr. Brown packed his bag. He was ready to go. He knew this trip was important. He was going to help a lot of people. Dr. Brown got to the airport. He was ready to board his flight. But something happened. There was a problem with his flight. It was cancelled. Dr. Brown was worried. He needed to get to the conference. He asked about other flights, but there were none available. He had to think fast. Dr. Brown decided to drive. It would be a long drive, but he had to get there. He rented a car and started driving. He hoped he would make it in time. Dr. Brown drove for hours. He was tired, but he kept going. He was determined to get to the conference, but then something else happened. Dr. Brown got lost. He took a wrong turn. He was in the countryside. He didn't know where he was. It was getting dark. Dr. Brown saw a light in the distance. He drove towards it. He hoped someone could help him. He came to a small house. He knocked on the door. An old woman opened the door. She looked surprised to see Dr. Brown. He explained that he was lost. He asked if he could use her phone. The old woman invited him in. She offered him some tea. She was kind. She lived alone. She said her grandson was sick. He was in the hospital. She told Dr. Brown she was praying for a miracle. She was praying for a doctor to heal her grandson. He was very sick. She needed someone to help him. Dr. Brown listened to the old woman. He felt sorry for her. He told her he was a doctor. He asked about her grandson's illness. The old woman told him everything. She was worried. Dr. Brown listened carefully. He knew what to ask. He was a specialist in her grandson's illness. Then the old woman mentioned the hospital. It was the same hospital where Dr. Brown worked. It was the same hospital where the conference was being held. Dr. Brown was amazed. It was too much of a coincidence. He was supposed to be at that conference. He was supposed to be at that hospital. He told the old woman about the conference. He told her he was a specialist. He told her he could help her grandson. The old woman couldn't believe her ears. She had been praying for a miracle, and now a doctor was in her house. It felt like destiny. Section 8. The power of faith. Dr. Brown called the hospital. He talked to the doctors treating the old woman's grandson. He told them he would be there soon. The old woman was so grateful. She thanked Dr. Brown over and over. She said he was an angel sent from heaven. She truly believed her prayers were answered. Dr. Brown felt something too. He felt like he was meant to meet this woman. He was meant to help her grandson. It felt like destiny. Section 9. A life transformed. Dr. Brown got back on the road. He was no longer lost. He knew where he was going. He was going to the hospital. He was going to help a child. He thought about the old woman's faith. He thought about the power of prayer. He thought about how his life had changed in just a few hours. He realized that some things are more important than conferences. Some things are more important than fame. Helping people, that's what mattered most. Section 10. The ripple effect. Dr. Brown arrived at the hospital. He went straight to see the old woman's grandson. He examined him carefully. He talked to the other doctors. He used all his knowledge and skills. He worked tirelessly to help the young boy. He knew he had been given a chance to make a difference. Thanks to Dr. Brown's expertise, the young boy started to get better. The old woman's prayers were answered. One act of kindness had saved a life. Section 11. Echoes of hope. Dr. Brown never forgot the old woman and her grandson. He had learned a valuable lesson that day. He learned that sometimes we are led to where we need to be. He learned that even when things seem bad, there is always hope, and he learned that sometimes the greatest journeys are the ones we never planned. The story of Dr. Brown and the old woman reminds us that faith, destiny, and the power of prayer can create extraordinary miracles in our lives.